Fellow Ghostbusters and welcome guests.
Good evening.
For as long as I can remember, I've always been fascinated about the supernatural. The definition for supernatural varies from incidents unexplainable by science or is used as superlative degree. For example, the missile travels at a supernatural speed. Well, in my definition, supernatural equals to ghosts, goblins, and monsters under your bed and hiding in your wardrobe. For $10 every Sunday afternoon, I always go to the nearest bookstore and buy these terrifying, horrible, scary, whatever you want to call it, books. But without nagging and persistent that I have to give to my mom, I used to scream at her, yell at her, ostracize her, and last but not least, gave her the puppy look. But even with 30 horror collection books, I'm still as scared as a kid about to be run over by a car. Trust me, I will be the first and fastest to run away when I see the real thing. I will leave people behind because my survival instinct will kick in as quick as a wink. Now, there are two supernatural instances that I've encountered in the past. The first happened a decade ago, and the second one on May this year. 10 years ago, my cousin suffered from a supernatural disturbance. From a scientific perspective, she was suffering from otherwise known as hysteria. For superstitious people, including myself, we call it possession. I can hear my cousin screaming, crying, and a bit of laughing. He was sick. I still remember the exact words that I heard from that very night. A demonic voice cried from her room. "She's pretty! She's mine!" I felt this incredible trembling of fear, and bits of hairs rose behind my neck and all through my body. And my uncle hugged me and reassured me. "Son, don't let it get into your head. You're a boy, and boys shouldn't be scared." 10 years has passed that night, and since then I've been craving the sweaty palms, the heart pumping, and the state of apprehensiveness. I crave, the adrenaline rush came back to me once again. It was time for Supernatural Part 2. So, I gathered 4 friends on a fellowship of ghost hunting, and our ghost hunting went, and we absurdly dubbed ourselves the Ghostbusters. And so, our ghost hunting rendezvous was an old abandoned house clinic in Dumapas. But it kept me wondering, it kept me thinking, will it be worth the trip and time? I was worried that somebody might get hurt and that we should do things, important things other than this. And there's a saying, there's a quote, "Be careful what you wish for." And reasons for rationality were put aside because our immaturity blinded us. So before we began our hunt, we decided to pay a visit to this clinic on broad daylight. Along en route to the house, there's this narrow, jagged road full of potholes. And as I was standing there and looking at the house, there was this heavy feeling upon me. And there was three words to describe the house: dilapidated, eerie, and mysterious. Dilapidated, eerie, and mysterious. The house looked like it was abandoned for more than 50 years. And roots and vegetation came from the cavity walls, consuming the house. It looked like the house was abandoned for more than 50 years. And then I asked my friends, should we enter the house and see what's inside? But I had a feeling that the owners of this house, of this forsaken house, do not wish to welcome us, and that I had a feeling that we were being watched. Jim, one of our fellowship members, persisted us not to go inside the house until midnight, so we waited. We waited until midnight. And on midnight, we got into a 4v4 Pajero. And upon reaching our destination, the Pajero slowly drove onto this narrow road. Dum, 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 dum. The potholes. A burst tire is the least thing we want at this point. But our ever-disciplined driver, Hakim, made sure he avoided all the potholes as best as he can. And upon reaching the destination, a slight chill blew inside our car. Was it Hakim? Was it the aircon? Was Hakim lowered the temperature? And I look at Jim. Jim was shaking uncontrollably. It wasn't the aircon for sure. I saw it pointing at the house. Was it a he or was it a she? I couldn't tell. But there's only one thing that I can tell. One bit. That thing, it was sitting on the balcony. Bro, drive now! We was running away with tongue between our legs. And with tail between our legs. We were running away with tails tucked between our legs. And finally, as hard as he can, he pushed the accelerator and we were finally out at last, safe and sound. But that night changed our lives forever. It changed my friend, it changed mine too. My friend, Hakim, he has trouble sleeping at night, perhaps insomnia. And Jim, he suffered from a psychological disorder and he can't sleep now. And he's afraid of everything. But I'm okay though. On a serious note, it was all my fault because I let them there and they are now in pain. And every second and every moment, I feel guilty. And I feel guilty and what I did was wrong. In conclusion, I'm still a timid man even after facing the supernatural twice. And I learned that I didn't learn anything from the first event, which was a demonic possession. And whether you believe the supernatural or not, pursuing the supernatural is a waste of time at the end of the day. So I beg of you, please go out there, spend time with your family, spend time with your friends, have a meaningful trip, and have a meaningful trip. And with that being said, if you ever come across the supernatural, call a real Ghostbuster. Back to you.